Now, before we get into the absolute hilarity of today's video, today's topic, the feud between Cenk Uygur and Jimmy Dore that will not die, I just want to say that I was on Jellybean Jen's channel talking about the events of January 6th, Where Were You? Capitol Hill, and it was a great interview, and I definitely recommend you check it out if you want my thoughts in a more, well-placed conversational manner in, an interview context. That's just, sometimes better for certain people than a video. So definitely check it out. I'll link it in the description of this video. Jen is great. You should subscribe to her channel. It's nice to get a Scandinavian perspective on things like this. Yeah, you got it. Go do that. But let's get into today's topic. Now, I've gone over the feud between Cenk Uygur and Jimmy Dore multiple times on this channel. I've gone over the substance of the issue, the force the vote issue, and explained my thoughts on it, and I've gotten into what they're doing back and forth, and how hilarious I find all of it is. But to my surprise, this feud is still going. Jimmy Dore just released a 50-minute video, which followed up a 15-minute video attacking Anna Kasparian, and I'm enjoying every second of it. And in this video, Jimmy Dore covered absolutely all the bases in his hit piece against Cenk Uygur. And the best part about this is that Cenk Uygur has no possible way to respond to Jimmy Dore's arguments, because all of Jimmy Dore's arguments are the exact things that Cenk Uygur said about politics and attacks other people with. Like, the first thing that Jimmy Dore hits Cenk Uygur with within about 30 seconds of the video is that he's corrupt and he's on the take and he's being paid to lie against Medicare for All. Check it out for yourself.
So whoever tells you that this is a strategy disagreement is either unbelievably naive or covering for someone. This is not a strategy disagreement. Everybody agrees with hashtag force the vote. The people who are against it, it's inexplicable. And you're not supposed to question their motives. I question their motives. Cenk Uygur's on the take. And he's working for the Democratic Party. And he's working for his corporate donors, Jeffrey Katzenberg, Buddy Roemer, right-wingers. He's against Julian Assange. He's a total corporate sellout.
Now, for most people, it is easy to refute, dispute, or outright dismiss an attack like this as an ad hominem attack, as attacking the character of the person rather than the substance of the argument, but not for Cenk Uygur, because Cenk Uygur is on record, specifically in reference to Medicare for All, saying the exact same thing about his political opponents. Don't believe me? Hear it for yourself.
We know what the right policy is, but, and last thing, Democrats, you go Medicare for All. It's a no-brainer, and it's supposed to be a progressive position. The overwhelming majority of Democrats are still like, oh, that's impractical. That's a Republican talking point. Why are you saying that? It's because you're corrupt. You take donor money. Anyone who's not for Medicare for All, who's a Democrat, flat out corrupt. Period. Period.
Now, after hearing that, how does somebody like Cenk Uygur, who says if you're not for Medicare for All, and make no mistake, he says if you're not for his way of achieving Medicare for All, you are by definition corrupt. You are paid to lose, when somebody else reflects that at him when he's not in favor of their way of supposedly achieving Medicare for All. And the answer is you can. There is no defense adequate for Cenk Uygur in order to use against these allegations, because all Cenk Uygur has done throughout his entire career is hurl these allegations at other people. And Jimmy Dore is aware of this, and Jimmy Dore is actually saying specifically that he copied this aggressive style to talk about politics from Cenk Uygur when he used to work for Cenk Uygur. So when you put yourself in a position like Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks have, that every disagreement is not different people with different ideas to get to similar objectives, but it is in reality a reflection of corruption, because every progressive policy is a battle between good and evil, and by definition, either you agree with the progressives or you're evil. There's no legitimate way to disagree with them. This is what you end up with. So Cenk Uygur, in a way, is getting exactly what he's deserved from a former employee, and that's why his defenses are completely incoherent. All he can do is say Jimmy Dore is corrupt. All Anna Kasparian can do in defense of her organization taking investments from major Democratic donors is say that Jimmy Dore is saying this to pay off his really expensive home. There's no way out of it for them, and that's what makes this 50-minute video so excellent, because the only way that Jimmy Dore could be defeated by Cenk Uygur is actually acknowledging facts about Medicare for All that neither party are willing to do. Once you agree to the same lies, that Medicare for All is the perfect solution for all of our problems, and nobody in the American population is against it, or the majority of the American population is in favor of it, there's really no room to squirm, even though we've broken down the polling and we show that the exact opposite is true. One of the best pieces of polling that we've gone over is the Kaiser Family Foundation polling, which shows while the term Medicare for All is popular, the substance of Medicare for All is actually not popular. And in fact, in a head-to-head comparison, Joe Biden's plan of building on Obamacare is actually more popular among Democrats, the people who should be more in favor of Medicare for All, than Medicare for All. You can see the polling for yourself. But the most interesting piece of this polling is that the majority of people who are in favor of Medicare for All don't know anything about it. In fact, this poll is probably the most crucial piece of polling data that is ignored by the left that's just trying to push the agenda that their agenda is popular. This says that the majority of people in favor of Medicare for All think that you will be able to keep your private insurance after it's implemented. And in the opposed category, they think that you will not be able to keep your private insurance. What this means is that favoring Medicare for All has a correlation with not knowing the truth about Medicare for All, and being opposed to it has a correlation with knowing what's in it more accurately than those who are in favor of it. This is disastrous polling for you trying to push this agenda, because the people who agree with you don't know anything about the policy, and the people who disagree with you do, which means when you're actually fighting over it, when you're actually debating it, when you're actually campaigning against it, the numbers in favor of the program are likely to split. But neither party here can acknowledge that, because they're both under the illusion that everybody wants it. It's obviously the right decision. Nobody can be against it without being corrupt.
53% of Americans want Medicare for all, even after overwhelming propaganda by national media, Republicans and Democrat leadership against it. 87% of Democrat voters want it, and Democrats won't even vote on it? Anyone who tells you Medicare for all is unpopular is an unmitigated liar.
And Cenk Uygur, being against this strategy, essentially buries him in the eyes of progressives, because they all bought into this ideology that anybody who's against this is by definition corrupt and against the majority of the people. But hey, we're not here to get into the substance of why the left is wrong. They don't care about the substance. What we're here to get into is how nasty this fight is getting. And one of the things that I pointed out earlier in another video was that the investment capital that Jimmy Dore is attacking Cenk Uygur for accepting is not necessarily inherently corrupting. It's only if they are putting pressure, they are exerting pressure on the editorial staff at the Young Turks, does that become an ethical issue. And now Jimmy Dore has actually revealed that he was told at the Young Turks that they had to move more toward the center after receiving this capital. This was not information that he had made public before, and this is something that I find fascinating. And I find it fascinating for a number of reasons.
Me telling them to do what they ran on is attacking them, according to Anna Kasparian, who gives tongue baths to war criminals, takes $24 million from corporations and right-wingers, smears Julian Assange, and has moved to the center, as I was told by an executive at the Young Turks. I was told when they took that money, the Young Turks now has to move to the center, and we know that. And that's what this is. I was told point blank.
Now, what's great about this is I don't know if this is true. I know a lot of you trust Jimmy Dore more than you trust Cenk Uygur, but honestly, these people tend to make up things and conversations or take things out of context in order to promote their own personal agenda. Stephen Michael Davis actually has a great video on whether or not Cenk Uygur's story about being pulled into a back room at MSNBC and told that people in Washington don't like his tone and he has to change his substance in order to stay on their network, and how Cenk Uygur likely made it up, because the quotes that he's attributing to the MSNBC brass are not quotes that other people say who aren't necessarily progressives.
I am out at MSNBC. Now, whose decision was this? Well, it was both of our decisions. I will explain. Okay. I got pulled in, and they told me, hey, listen, we were just, or it was actually one specific person, the head of MSNBC. He said, I was just in Washington, and people in Washington tell me that they're concerned about your tone. I was like, whoa, what? You know, despite all the things that I've said about the mainstream media, I still view that as kind of like theoretical. Like, a real person, are they really going to say that? I was like, and I'm naively thinking, what does he mean? Did he talk to his friend Bob in Washington? But why would you say people in Washington if you meant, oh, yeah, I was talking to my buddy down at the shop about you. It just happened to be that he was a person in Washington. You wouldn't frame it that way, right? But I'm still thinking that. And then he gives me the second part of the speech. Hey, listen, Cenk, outsiders are cool. And they wear, I think he might have said something like, they wear leather jackets, they ride bikes. I think I'm an outsider, I don't ride bike, but I have a terrible leather jacket. Anyway, he said, I'd love to be an outsider, outsiders are cool, but we're not. We're insiders. We are the establishment. And I just kind of sat back. I was like, wow. This is it. This is the speech.
The reason why this is important is because when your account of something somebody else told you sounds like it was the way that you personally would have phrased it in your strawmans of how the establishment talks behind the scenes, it largely makes me believe that you are lying or misinterpreting, or you are greatly paraphrasing what the conversation actually was. Now, the reason I think this is fantastic is because this conversation was infamous among Young Turk circles, and it gave Cenk like an aura of credibility among the progressives because he wouldn't take what MSNBC was selling him. So if Jimmy Dore is misremembering or like reshaping the conversation in his brain to what he thought they were saying to him, and that is being reflected on Cenk, even if it's not true, just like even if the MSNBC thing is not true, it's still damning among progressives and it's going to do damage to Cenk Uygur. And as Cenk said in that previous story, this is how the establishment supposedly talked to him, so it makes sense if you follow that logic that this is how the establishment might have talked to Jimmy Dore. So Cenk might have buried himself in this instance just with that past story related to MSNBC.
That's the executive producer of a journalist outlet who just got done smearing Julian Assange, so of course they did that to me. I've never had an original idea in my life. Peddled McCarthyism and censorship for 4 years while taking $20 million in Katzenberg cash. Yes, this is a great idea, but Jimmy Dore is still a meanie. I work for a guy whose biopic is named Mad as Hell, but Jimmy's rage is off-putting somehow. Was a great honor to give a tongue bath to war criminal Madeleine Albright while I was uncritically repeating CIA talking points on Syria and Venezuela, while Jimmy was debunking me in real time in my own studio, including my smears of Julian Assange, but that's not what this is about.
But Jimmy doesn't stop there. He starts hitting Anna Kasparian as a fake journalist, which, by the way, Anna Kasparian is a fake journalist, and he starts dogging the Young Turks for their fundraisers that don't seem to have produced the results that they should have produced. First and foremost, setting aside the investment capital, was the Young Turks raising over $2 million in order to hire journalism teams when none of those journalists currently work at the Young Turks. They were all fired within a couple of months of them achieving their financial goals. And Jimmy Dore not only highlights this, but he highlights one of them that are actually suing the Young Turks for racial discrimination.
TYT reaches $2 million in fundraising campaign. The Young Turks expand reporting unit through a $2 million crowdsourced fundraising campaign and then fired all the people they hired. And then they got that money and then they fired everybody. What happened to all those investigative reporters, Cenk? What happened to that money? Here's another guy. Watch this. This is another guy who was Cenk Uygur steamrolled.
Yesterday, I came forward about the racial discrimination that I unfortunately dealt with at the Young Turks. And it certainly wasn't easy to do. My time at the Young Turks was both humiliating and unfortunate. In response, my old boss Cenk Uygur insinuated that I lied. He couldn't be more wrong. When I went to Cenk for help, he responded by telling me his old boss would tell me to shut the f*** up and I should just deal with it. He also told me complaining about my discrimination complaints was something amounting to a fireable offense.
He told him that if he complained, that was a fireable offense.
Now, I've already gone over the Jones lawsuit against the Young Turks. I did an entire video on it. I gave you where I thought it was weak, where I thought it was strong, and I'll link that somewhere in the description of this video if you want to check that out. But for Jimmy Dore to bring this up in an attack video on Cenk just shows that in this 50-minute video, he's going no holds bar on him. He's throwing every piece of mud in Cenk Uygur's face based on this disagreement, which is great because Cenk Uygur, again, does this all the time. He calls people corrupt. He says they take donor money, therefore you can't believe anything that they say. Meanwhile, he's getting investments from corporate donors, people who donate to the Democratic Party, and then he finds something that he can call a character issue, even if it's alleged, even if there's no evidence, and he throws that in your face and says that that's what you're all about. This is what Cenk Uygur did to Sam Harris. He kept quote mining and bringing up individual instances of hearsay and using that to smear the guy just because he disagreed with him but didn't want to argue the substance of that disagreement.
And where did that money go? What are you, is Cenk a degenerate gambler?
But even funnier than that, Jimmy Dore also makes fun of Cenk for trying to tone police him and tell him to not be so angry. Cenk Uygur, who's probably best known for being angry and melting down over political issues and yelling into the camera. And Jimmy Dore acknowledges this, and he acknowledges that he got this style from Cenk Uygur.
He says, there's someone in this tunnel who needs serious psychological counseling. Can you guess who? Cenk Uygur was known for screaming his head off at everybody. Everybody. Don't get near him. Here's Cenk Uygur. Here's Cenk Uygur, who's telling me I have psychological problems because I'm yelling about healthcare.
The New York Times of what he was said. President finally concedes. Was it a banner headline?
What page?
Page 1 on the front page above the fold.
Michael,
Absolutely. That's where I learned.
Story in USA Today. Bush says he's made America safe. That's the headline.
Okay, James, you're talking about one
within
story.
the article are never goddamn mentioned in the goddamn headline.
All right, you know, it's impossible to talk to you about
Because
something.
here, I'll show it to you.
You know, I mean, USA Today. You're not talking about USA Today. You're talking about one.
Show the goddamn paper right here, okay?
What is
USA safer? Bush says. Picture headline: USA safer. Bush says.
Okay.
USA Today. You suck balls. You are a terrible newspaper.
Now I have a quick correction for Jimmy Dore. Mad as Hell is not a biopic of Cenk Uygur. A biopic implies that they actually hired an actor to play Cenk Uygur in a movie that tells the story more or less of his life or a specific period of his life. This is considered a documentary. It might not be a very realistic documentary since it was paid for by the Young Turks in order to promote the Young Turks, but it is a documentary and not a biopic. That is a major distinction, and Jimmy Dore, you need to get on that. I just fact-checked you. You're owned. You're blown out of here. Fix that up. Get that correct. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to dismiss everything you say if you don't know the basic facts about what is involved in one genre and what is involved in another genre. However, this actually gets even better because not only is Cenk Uygur known for melting down, not only has Cenk Uygur been in a documentary that he helped pay for about him called Mad as Hell, but Cenk Uygur also freaks out all the time, not just in political circumstances, but on customer service people, and Jimmy Dore brings this up, and it's amazing.
So here's Cenk Uygur going full raging maniac on customer service employees, and he thinks this is when he thinks it's okay to yell.
And I'm hungry and I'm tired, and so, like, you know me, I get more agitated when I'm hungry and tired.
So maybe we just should have, maybe if he would have skipped a meal during this hashtag force the vote, he would have got angry. But it's obvious he's not skipping meals. It's obvious. So this is want to know when he gets angry, when it's okay for him? This is when it's okay.
So, look, if you guys think this is bad, wait till, if that plane doesn't actually come from the hangar in 20 minutes.
People have been waiting for healthcare since 1940. People have been waiting for healthcare in this country for 80 years. He can't wait 20 minutes for a plane. If his plane doesn't come in 20 minutes, this is what he does.
Flight coming! Supervisors, the flight coming! Supervisor, you at least got to be honest. Is there a flight? Is there a plane? You got to be honest. Is there a plane? Is there a plane? Where's the plane?
These people are all dealing with people, and Cenk is in their face yelling at them and recording it himself. He's recording it himself. How do we get this video? He recorded it and posted it. That's how unhinged that guy is.
I need to, you're a supervisor, aren't you? Where's the plane?
Sorry, I'm not going to answer your question.
No, I know, because I've been here for 4 hours. Don't give me this. Where's the plane? Here, I got a question for you. Wow. When did you make the decision that we weren't going to have a plane? When did you make that decision? Who made the decision? Who made the decision that we weren't? It's funny to you, right? It's not funny to us. Who made the decision? Who made the decision? Who made it? Well, who is it then? That's what I'm asking. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Is there a crew? Is there a crew? Is there a crew?
By yelling, we're not going to be able to answer your question.
Okay, let me whisper it. Is there a crew? Is there a plane or a crew?
Flight 204, your plane is already on its way from the hangar.
No, but they told us that 4 hours ago. Is it actually coming? Is it actually coming? Because I literally heard it was coming from the hangar 3 hours ago. I literally heard that.
So that's what he was doing.
So there are so many things about this that I can't get over how amazing they are. First and foremost, if you heard the music in the background of that clip, That wasn't music from Cenk's live stream. By the way, Cenk live streamed himself shouting at these people. That's added in by a YouTuber called Dame Pesos, who makes mashups of Young Turks Are Stupid compilations here on YouTube, meaning that Jimmy Dore pulled the Dame Pesos clip in order to shame and make fun of Cenk, which is amazing. I can't say anything else. I know I'm saying the word amazing a lot, but that's the only thing to describe it. Jimmy Dore, former Young Turks employee, attacking Cenk Uygur from the left is using Dame Pesos footage in order to do so. Second, the plane had a mechanical issue. So Cenk Uygur is like screaming at these people, these customer service people who are in no way in charge of delivering a plane, and he's screaming at them like conspiracy theories. He's like, when did you decide we're not gonna have a plane? When did you make the decision? When it turns out the plane had a mechanical issue and was literally not safe for passengers to fly on. So these people who have nothing to do with the decision not to bring a plane out of the hangar are getting yelled at by Cenk Uygur as if they have some power, and they're like cruelly pressing down and oppressing Cenk Uygur and not letting him get on a plane, when they're just saying, hey, hold on, the plane is dangerous and we can't fly you on it. We have to get either a safe plane or fix this plane's mechanical issue before you can board it. And Cenk is just flipping out. He's losing his mind on them. And he says he's doing that because that will make it go faster. And on top of that, he's filming it and live streaming it to his audience in order to make a bigger scene, because he feels so justified in yelling at these customer service people that this is content he wants to serve his audience to show them that he's a decent guy and he's in the right and he's a strong fighter. Now look, Jimmy Dore slinging mud at Cenk, Jimmy Dore busting him up on the Katzenberg investment, giving us inside information at the Young Turks at the time of the Katzenberg investment, Jimmy Dore playing Dame Pesos clips, would normally be good enough. I would be satisfied with this. I would crack up throughout as I did watching this. But even better, among my favoriteest things of all my favorite things that were included in this Jimmy Dore video was Jimmy Dore talking about Cenk Uygur's congressional campaign and how Cenk was acting behind the scenes.
And Cenk Uygur's got to do this. He started attacking Bernie. Again, attack of the case helped us. Attacking Bernie is not progressive enough. Hilarious. But to be fair, Tulsi would come on his show. Everybody came on my show. AOC came on my show when she wanted to use me to help brand her. Cori Bush came on my show. Ro Khanna comes on my show. Everybody comes on my show. You came on my show, Cenk. Remember when you were begging to come on my show? When you were running for office? When you were showing everybody how to do it?
That's so dirty right there. Saying Cenk Uygur behind the scenes was begging to come on Jimmy Dore's show so that he could help him with his run for Congress. And now all of a sudden, after Jimmy Dore had him on his show, try to help him with his campaign, Cenk is turning his back on him. That's just nastiness on top of nastiness. And I'm so glad that Jimmy Dore put that out in the public domain so I can look at it and laugh at it. But there's also something else in there that I'm just going to play for you so you can hear it clearly. That is cracking me up.
You came on my show, Cenk. Remember when you were begging to come on my show? When you were running for office? When you were showing everybody how to do it?
That's probably the biggest dig to Cenk Uygur and to his ego you can possibly have, where he makes fun of Cenk and his idea that he was going to show everybody how it was done in running as a progressive for Congress. And remember, this was the attitude and the aura around Cenk throughout that entire congressional run. He was going to fight, fight, fight. He was going to show everybody that it's a myth that progressives can't win in purple districts. And he was going to prove that the entire country is on board with progressive ideas. And Cenk Uygur's campaign, no doubt about it, Mr. 5% of the vote, was objectively a disaster in every way, except in fundraising, where Cenk raised over $1 million for that congressional campaign. He completely blew it, his ads were garbage, everything about his campaign was a failure, but he did raise a ton of money in order to blow that race in epic proportions. And Cenk knows that he blew a bunch of his credibility, and Jimmy Dore knows that he blew a bunch of his credibility. You can't be the guy who's the Monday morning quarterback for how politicians should campaign and act, and then get blown out when you have a significant amount of money for your campaign. Everything Cenk said about politics before this race, he had aligned for him and going for him and should have worked for him if his political theories have any merit. But they have no merit, which is why Cenk Uygur got 5% of the vote. And as if to prove that Cenk Uygur knows absolutely nothing about politics, despite the fact that he pretends that he's an expert, he went on and started talking about how nobody knew until after his race how important name recognition was.
Look, my election taught me a lot of things. Most important lesson, and Anna, you know, when we talked about it in one of the post games, you said, hey, Cenk, that's obvious. That's what we learned in Politics 101, which is, but I think you're totally wrong, okay? So let me explain, okay? No one on TV, none of the political strategists, none of the consultants knew the most simple fact about politics, which is it's branding. Most of it is name recognition, the rest of it is mass media. There are depressing facts that rise from that, but go ahead.
Okay, so you're just wrong. People do know that. I literally learned it in my
Then why did
American
everybody think
politics
that
class
Booker and
in my
Klobuchar-
graduate program.
Cenk, everybody knows that. I know you like to make fun of Democratic Party consultants and all kinds of political consultants, but they would have all told you that. Even a first year, first semester, first week poli-sci student would tell you that of course name recognition matters. This is the most obvious thing in American politics possible. If people don't know who you are, they can't formulate an opinion on you. And Cenk Uygur acts like he discovered this revelation, that name recognition isn't a big deal. By the way, it's also important to note that Cenk Uygur said it was a myth that progressives couldn't win in purple districts, but on the night of his election, when the conservative voting areas came in, he said don't pay attention to that because he didn't even bother to campaign in those areas because he knew conservatives would be against him. But I thought all the conservatives also agree with the progressive agenda, so why would he not even bother to campaign among him? His strategy was garbage from the jump because his theory of politics is garbage. So yeah, while I'm not a fan of Jimmy Dore still, I do appreciate all the content that he's producing that I can watch and react to and present to you. And I will recommend that you watch all the videos that he's dropping about the Young Turks because it's savage. It has a lot of the stuff that me and other critics of the Young Turks were saying for years, but it's coming from somebody who knows Cenk personally and used to work with him. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on all the social medias. They are linked in the description. If you want to support me, the support links are also there. This has been me talking about Jimmy Dore still attacking Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks. Till next time.